I stared at the hotel receptionist's face, hoping I'd heard her wrong. "I'm sorry, what was that?" I asked again. She kept her professional smile plastered on, though her tone was apologetic. "I'm very sorry, sir. Our system shows that one of the two king rooms you and Ms. Donovan booked is unavailable due to a plumbing failure. We're completely booked tonight, so the only thing we can offer you is a complimentary upgrade to one of our executive suites." "How many beds does the suite have?" "One king-size bed, sir." I felt a bead of sweat trickle down the back of my neck. I glanced over at Claire Donovan, standing about 10 feet away, scrolling through her phone. The lobby lights cast a soft shadow on her sharp profile. She didn't seem to have noticed the problem yet. "You don't have a room with two queens? Or even a standard double?" "I'm terribly sorry. We're at full capacity. We've already called 3 other hotels in the area, and they're booked solid as well." The receptionist lowered her voice. "There's a huge tech conference at the convention center tomorrow. The whole city is packed." I rubbed my temples. This business trip to Seattle was for the next major update to the Synapse app. Claire was the director of product for our client, Aura Dynamics. I was the project manager from our end, Innovate Solutions. We've been working together for 3 months, and our conversations have been strictly professional. We had 0 personal relationship, and now we were supposed to share a room? A room with 1 bed? What's the hold-up? Claire's voice came from behind me. I turned, trying to keep my expression neutral. "There's a little problem with the rooms." I gave her the short version. She listened, her face unreadable, her long fingers tapping twice against the side of her phone. I recognized the gesture. She did it in every meeting right before tackling a difficult problem. "What's the solution?" she asked the receptionist, her voice calm. "The suite is very large, with a separate office and sitting area. We can provide a rollaway bed, but it might not be very comfortable," the agent said quickly. "As compensation, the hotel will waive tonight's room charge and provide vouchers for breakfast for 2 and a credit at our spa." Claire glanced at her watch. 10:20 p.m. She had to be at an industry summit at the convention center at 9 a.m. sharp. "That will have to do," she told the receptionist, then looked at me. "Do you have a problem with that?" "Me?" I hadn't expected her to ask me first. "I'm fine with whatever. It's you I'm worried about, Ms. Donovan." "I don't mind," she cut me off, pulling her driver's license from her purse and handing it to the agent. "Let's get this sorted out. We have an early start tomorrow." The suite was on the 18th floor. In the elevator, we stood in opposite corners, staring at the glowing numbers as they climbed. I snuck a look at Claire. She was wearing a light gray blazer over a white shell top and black slacks, her typical power exec uniform. Her long hair was loosely pinned up, revealing the pale, elegant line of her neck. The elevator chimed. The hallway was carpeted in a thick plush that swallowed the sound of our footsteps. The suite was massive, probably 700 square feet. The entry opened into a small living room with a sofa and coffee table. Beyond that was the bedroom area, where the king-size bed stood out like a monument. To the right was the bathroom and a separate walk-in closet. "You take the bed," Claire said, setting down her luggage. Her tone left no room for argument. "Absolutely not. You take it, Ms. Donovan. I'll take the rollaway." She was already walking toward the living room. "I'll probably be working late anyway. I could just use the sofa. The bed's yours. The sofa's too short. You won't get any rest." "Ethan," she said, turning to face me, "I'm not negotiating with you. But if you insist, we can play for it. Rock, paper, scissors." I was stunned. I'd seen her be assertive in boardrooms, coolly dismantling arguments against her proposals. But I'd never seen this casual side of her. "All right, rock, paper, scissors it is," I said. She raised an eyebrow. "You sure? It's only fair." We stood facing each other and shot on 3. I threw rock. She threw paper. I win. A tiny smirk played on her lips. It was a barely there curve, but it was definitely a smile. "I'll take the sofa." Before I could argue, my phone rang. It was my boss. "Mark," I said, walking over to the window. "Ethan, you make it to Seattle?" Everything going smoothly with Director Donovan. Mark Evans's voice came through the phone, tinny and loud over the background noise of what sounded like a busy restaurant. "Just got to the hotel. Everything's fine. Good. Listen, we have to lock in a contract renewal on this project. Aura Dynamics is looking at a $30 million budget for it next year," Mark said, his voice dropping. "Claire Donovan is the key. If she gives us the thumbs up, we're halfway there. So be on your best behavior. Understood. And one more thing. I'm hearing rumors of shakeup over at Aura. They might be bringing in a new VP to run the product division. See if you can feel her out about it, but be subtle. After I hung up, I turned to see Claire had already opened her laptop on the sofa. A few documents were fanned out on the coffee table. She put on a pair of thin-framed glasses and was staring intently at the screen. Can I get you anything, Ms. Donovan? I can order some room service. No, thank you. All right, well, I'm going to go get cleaned up then. Go right ahead. In the bathroom, I stared at my reflection in the mirror and sighed. Before I left, my colleague Kevin had joked, a solo business trip with a beautiful client director? This is your big chance, man. Well, it was a chance, all right. A chance to share a room. I took a quick shower, and when I came out of my sweats and a t-shirt, Claire was still working. A hotel employee had delivered the rollaway bed and set it up in the corner of the living room. Ms. Donovan, the rollaway is set up. Are you sure you don't want the bed? She looked up, taking off her glasses. Ethan, let's just set some ground rules. 1. We don't disturb each other while we're in the room. 2. We coordinate bathroom time. 3. We only discuss work during work hours. Deal. Deal. Then good night. Good night. I lay down on the massive bed and switched off my bedside lamp. The desk lamp in the living room was still on, casting a halo of light around Claire's silhouette. She looked almost fragile. I suddenly remembered the project review meeting last month where she single-handedly shut down 5 engineers who were questioning her specs, her logic sharp and flawless. Back then, I thought she was brilliant, but also kind of nightmare to work with. The Ice Queen, some of the guys called her. Now, I just thought she was probably exhausted. I woke up at 6:30 the next morning, right on schedule. In the living room, the rollaway bed was already folded up and tucked away. Claire was standing by the window, sipping a coffee. She'd changed into a pale blue blouse and beige slacks, and her hair was down. Morning, I said. Morning. There's coffee on the table. Complimentary from the hotel, she said, gesturing with her mug. I'm leaving for the convention center at 7. You can sleep in a bit. Let's meet at our booth in Hall B at 2 p.m. I'll just go with you. I have to set up our display anyway. She glanced at me. Suit yourself. We had a quick, quiet breakfast in the hotel restaurant. Claire took 3 work calls, her speech rapid, a mix of English and tech jargon. I silently noted that she took her coffee black with just a splash of cream. In the Uber on the way to the convention center, she finally put her phone down. Ethan, regarding the voice recognition optimization for the next version of Synapse, does your team have any new ideas? She asked, her tone shifting back into professional mode. I pulled out my tablet. We've tested 3 new algorithms. All of them improve accuracy by about 5%, but they also increase the response time by 0.3 of a second. The user tolerance threshold for response time is 0.8 seconds. What's our current latency? 0.7. So we'd be right on the edge, she mused. Can you send me the algorithm models? I'll send them when we get back to the hotel. The car pulled up to the venue. The convention center was a sea of people, a chaotic symphony of lanyards and logos. Aura Dynamics had a prime booth right in the center of Hall B, a sleek, futuristic construction. The second Claire stepped out of the car, she was swarmed by her assistants and instantly switched into high gear. I took our company's materials to our smaller booth nearby. I was only halfway through setting up when Kevin called. Dude, what's the situation? Making any moves on the Ice Queen? Kevin's voice was practically buzzing with gossip. It's a work trip, man. What moves are there to make? Don't give me that. A guy and a girl, alone on a business trip? It's a golden opportunity. I heard she's single. Half the execs at her company have tried to ask her out, and she shot every single one of them down. You seem to know a lot about our clients' personal lives. Hey, it's all part of managing the account, he laughed. But seriously, Mark wanted me to remind you that Aura CEO might stop by the booth today. If you can get some FaceTime, say a few words, it would be huge for the renewal. Got it. I hung up and got back to work. Around 10, the doors opened to the public. I spent the morning demoing our software and collecting business cards. So busy I didn't even have time for a sip of water. At 1:50, I made my way to Hall B. Claire was talking to a small group of people. At the center, being treated like royalty, was a man in his 50s, Robert Peterson, the CEO of Aura Dynamics. I hung back, waiting for a break in their conversation. When Claire saw me, she gave a slight nod. Mister, Peterson, this is Ethan Walker, the project manager from Innovate Solutions, she said. He's the one leading the Synapse project. Peterson looked me over and extended a hand. Young and promising. User feedback on the latest version has been excellent. Keep it up. Thank you, Mr. Peterson. We'll do our best, I said, giving his hand a firm, brief shake. After a few more pleasantries, Peterson was swept away by his entourage. Claire let out a quiet sigh and rubbed her temples. You haven't had lunch yet, have you? I asked. No time. I'll go grab something. What do you want? She thought for a moment. A sandwich is fine. Thanks. I came back with 2 turkey sandwiches and 2 bottles of water. We sat in the staff area behind the booth, finally getting a chance to breathe. How's your booth doing? She asked, tearing open the wrapper. Not bad. Got over 30 solid leads. That's efficient, she said, taking a small bite and chewing slowly. What's your plan for this afternoon? There's an industry forum at 4:30 I was planning to check out. I'm going to that too, she said, glancing at her phone. I have an interview at 3. It should take about half an hour. Meet at the entrance to the forum afterward. Sounds good. She finished her sandwich quickly and stood up, smoothing out her blazer. She took 2 steps, then turned back. Thanks for the coffee this morning. I was confused. The hotel provided that. I know, she said, and that rare, tiny smile appeared again. But thank you for noticing how I take it. She turned and walked away, leaving me standing there a little stunned. The afternoon forum was painfully boring. Just a few industry bigwigs on stage spouting corporate platitudes. Claire sat next to me, taking meticulous notes. She wore a subtle perfume that wasn't floral or sweet, but smelled more like a forest after it rains. By the time it ended, it was already evening. In a car back to the hotel, Claire leaned against the window with her eyes closed. I noticed she looked a little pale. Are you feeling okay, Ms. Donovan? Just a headache. It's an old problem, she said without opening her eyes. I have some Advil in my bag, if you need it. No, it's fine. I just need a rest. When we got back to the hotel, we went our separate ways, to the same room, of course. As soon as we were inside, Claire went straight to the sofa and lay down. Ms. Donovan, you should really take the bed, I said. You don't look well at all. This time, she didn't argue. She unsteadily pushed herself up, and I instinctively reached out to steady her. Her hand was ice cold. Thank you, she murmured and walked into the bedroom. I got her a glass of lukewarm water and set it on the nightstand. Let me know if you need anything. I sat on the living room sofa and opened my laptop to work through my emails. About half an hour later, I heard a faint noise from the bedroom. I got up and went to the door. Ms. Donovan, are you okay? I asked softly. No answer. I hesitated for a second, then pushed the door open. Claire was curled up on her side, her forehead beaded with sweat. The glass of water on the nightstand was empty. Claire, I said, moving closer. I realized she was shivering. Cold, she mumbled. I touched her forehead. It was burning up. I immediately dug a couple of fever reducers out of my suitcase and got her more water. Claire, you need to sit up and take this. She managed to open her eyes and, with my help, swallowed the pills before slumping back onto the pillows. I got a damp washcloth from the bathroom and placed it on her forehead, then grabbed the comforter off my rollaway bed and layered it over her. After I'd done everything I could think of, I pulled a chair up to the bedside and just sat there, watching the feverish flush on her face. With her usual armor stripped away, she looked younger, more vulnerable. My phone vibrated. A text from Kevin. Hey man, you free tonight? The guys from the Seattle office want to grab dinner. I texted back, can't. Claire has a fever. I need to stay and look after her. A string of shocked face emojis appeared. What? Dude, you guys are moving fast. It's not like that. Just being a decent colleague, right? A decent colleague. So here you are, Ethan. I didn't reply. I just turned my phone off. Late into the night, her fever finally started to break. She was sleeping soundly, her breathing even. I leaned back in the chair and eventually drifted off myself. I don't know how much time had passed, but I woke up to someone gently shaking my shoulder. I opened my eyes to see Claire sitting up in bed, holding my jacket. Ethan, go sleep in the bed, she said, her voice still a little hoarse. I'm fine now. Is your fever gone? I asked, trying to stand up and nearly falling as pins and needles shot through my numb leg. Claire grabbed my arm to steady me. It's gone. Thank you for taking care of me. The brief touch of her hand confirmed it. Her skin felt cool and normal again. I took my jacket from her. Then you should get some more rest. I'll sleep on the sofa. The bed is huge, she said, her voice even. If you don't mind, you can sleep on the other side. I froze. She had already lain back down, her back to me. We both have work tomorrow. We both need to sleep. And don't worry, I trust you. I stood there for a long moment before finally turning off the light and lying down on the far side of the bed. There were at least 2 feet of space between us, but I could still smell that faint, rain-on cedar scent of her perfume. Thank you for today, she said softly in the darkness. You're welcome. I don't get sick often, but when I do, it's always bad. I'm sorry for the trouble. It's what colleagues do. A few minutes of silence passed. Just as I thought she'd fallen asleep, she spoke again. I know what people at your company call me behind my back. The Ice Queen. I had no idea she knew. That's just because they don't know you. And you? What do you think I'm like? The question caught me off guard. I thought about it for a second before giving an honest answer. I think you're professional. You're dedicated to your work. You could be demanding, sure, but it's always for the good of the project. I heard her give a soft laugh. A very diplomatic answer. What did you want me to say? Nothing, she said, rolling over to face my direction, though it was too dark to see anything. Get some sleep. We have a long day tomorrow. Good night, Claire. Good night. I closed my eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. I could hear the steady rhythm of her breathing, feel the slight shift of the mattress as she moved. The unexpected intimacy of it all had me completely on edge. I thought about Kevin's teasing, about Mark's orders, about the calculating look in Robert Peterson's eyes. Then I thought about Claire's fragile appearance when she was sick, about her small coffee habit, about that tiny, fleeting smile. Tonight, something had definitely changed. The next morning, I was the first to wake up. I opened my eyes and realized that at some point in the night, I had rolled toward the middle of the bed. Claire was just an arm's length away. She was still asleep, her long lashes casting soft shadows on her cheeks in the morning light. The paleness from last night was gone, replaced by a healthy, faint flush. I slipped out of bed as quietly as I could and went to the bathroom. By the time I came out, she was awake, sitting up and checking her phone. Morning, she said, her voice still thick with sleep. Morning. Feeling better? Completely, she said, getting out of bed and running a hand through her hair. Thank you for taking care of me last night. I'm rarely that. Out of it. It happens to everyone. I unplugged my phone charger. Do you want to get breakfast downstairs? Or order room service? Restaurant. It'll be faster. We both got ready and left the room, one after the other. In the elevator, we ran into a few people from other companies. We all exchanged polite nods. No one had any idea we'd just spent the night in the same room. At breakfast, Claire was back in work mode. She scrolled through emails on her phone while eating a bowl of oatmeal, occasionally discussing the afternoon's client demo with me. At 3 p.m., Aura Dynamics has a product launch event. I'll be on stage giving the presentation, she said. I need you in the audience. Keep an eye on the reactions, especially from our competitors. Got it. There's a small reception afterward that Mr. Peterson will be at. Mark Evans is coming too. He flew in last night. I nodded. My boss showing up in person meant this renewal was a top priority. Claire, I hesitated. About the contract renewal. What's the general feeling about it internally at Aura? She put down her spoon and looked up at me. If you want to ask something, just ask. You don't have to beat around the bush. All right. I heard Aura might be bringing in a new VP to oversee the product division. Will that affect the renewal for the Synapse project? She was quiet for a few seconds. You've got good sources. It's true. They've already picked someone. He starts next month. But for now, I'm still the one in charge of Synapse, she said, taking a sip of coffee. As long as the metrics look good and user feedback is positive, the renewal shouldn't be a problem. I felt a wave of relief. However, she added, her tone shifting, the new VP will probably have his own ideas. That makes the data from this next version critical. There could be no mistakes. My team can deliver. They'd better. After breakfast, we went our separate ways. Claire headed to the main hall to prep for her presentation, and I went to meet with a few potential clients. I grabbed a quick lunch at the food court, where I happened to run into Kevin. Hey, fancy meeting you here, he said, sliding his tray onto the table across from me. How was last night? Is the director feeling better? She's fine. And you? Did you sleep well? He asked with a wink. I ignored him. When does Mark get here? Just before the reception. He told me to tell you to be sharp, network, meet some people, Kevin said, lowering his voice. I heard Aura's new VP might make an appearance. He hasn't officially started, but he's already getting involved. Do we know who it is? No idea. They're keeping it under wraps. Kevin suddenly remembered something. Oh, guess who I saw this morning? Samantha. She's here for the conference. The fork in my hand paused halfway to my mouth. Samantha was my ex-girlfriend. We'd broken up 2 years ago. It hadn't been pretty, and we hadn't spoken since. Which company is she with? Apex Wearables, I think. They make smart devices. Kevin watched my face. You gonna go say hi? No need. I went back to eating. She asked about you, you know. I looked up. What did she ask? Just if you were still at Innovate. How you were doing. I told her you were doing great, running the big Aura Dynamics account now. He grinned. She looks good. Heard she's about to make director. Good for her. At 3 o'clock, the Aura Dynamics launch event began. I stood near the back of the audience, watching Claire walk onto the stage. Under the bright spotlights, she wore a tailored navy blue suit, her makeup flawless, her presence commanding. The presentation was a huge success, earning round after round of applause. During the Q&A, she handled a few tough questions with effortless grace. I noticed a few people from competing companies in the front rows, and they did not look happy. After the presentation, the reception began. Mark Evans appeared, as promised, and was immediately deep in conversation with Robert Peterson. He called me over to join them for a few minutes before I tactfully excused myself. I grabbed a glass of champagne and stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at the Seattle waterfront as the sun began to set. Ethan, a familiar voice, made me turn. Samantha was standing in front of me, wearing a wine-red dress, her hair in soft waves. She looked more mature than I remembered. Long time no see, I said, raising my glass in a small toast. Yeah, 2 years, she said, looking me up and down. You haven't changed much. You either. An awkward silence hung between us. Samantha took a sip of her wine. I hear you're managing the Aura account now. That's impressive. It's all right. You're at Apex Wearables. Yep, Associate Director of Marketing. She paused. I actually almost interviewed at Aura last month, but decided to stay at Apex. Why? Didn't want to get tangled up with an ex's company, she said bluntly, then laughed. I'm kidding. Apex just gave me a better offer. I nodded, not sure what else to say. Our first meeting after the breakup was going more smoothly than I'd expected. By the way, I'm getting married next month, she said, her tone light. Should I send you an invitation? Or would that be too weird? Congratulations, I said, and I meant it. Who's the guy? Our director of engineering. He's a great guy. She looked at me. What about you? Seeing anyone? Too busy with work. An excuse, she smiled. You used to say that back then, too. That was then. Another silence. Then, Samantha said, I always wanted to apologize. I said some pretty awful things when we broke up. It's all in the past. Yeah, it is. She glanced at her watch. I should go find my boss. Keep in touch. Sure. Samantha walked away. I stood there and finished my champagne. Memories from 2 years ago surfaced, but strangely, I didn't feel much of anything. Time really does wash things away. Excuse friend. Claire's voice came from my side. I turned. She'd appeared out of nowhere, also holding a glass of champagne. You saw that. Just happened to, she said, leaning against the window frame. Looked like a nice chat. Just catching up. She didn't press. Instead, she changed the subject. Mark just spoke with Mr. Peterson. The renewal is basically a done deal. But there's a condition. The user metrics for the new version have to hit their targets within 3 months of launch. We can do it. You'd better, she repeated from this morning, though her tone was a little softer this time. By the way, Mr. Peterson is hosting a dinner tonight, and he specifically asked for you to be there. Me? You did a great job with the presentation prep. He was impressed, she said, looking at me. This is a good opportunity. Be on your game. Thank for the heads up, Claire. Don't thank me. You earned it. She paused. There might be some typical schmoozing at the dinner. You know how to handle that, right? I know the drill. The dinner was an exclusive chef's table restaurant overlooking the water. The private room was large. Besides Robert Peterson, Mark Evans, Claire, and myself, there were a few other Aura VPs and 2 of their most important clients. After a couple of rounds of drinks, the atmosphere loosened up. Peterson was clearly in a good mood, telling stories from his early startup days. Mark played along, chiming in with anecdotes about the long-standing partnership between Innovate and Aura. I didn't say much, but I answered every question directed at me with professional poise. I noticed Claire barely touched her food, though she'd had a few glasses of wine, and a faint blush colored her cheeks. "Claire," Peterson said suddenly, "our new VP, Connor Hayes, starts next month. I'll need you to work closely with him and get him up to speed." "Of course," Claire said with a smile. "Connor is young, brilliant, a Stanford grad. He has a lot of new ideas for the product line," Peterson continued. "The two of you should complement each other well. You bring the stability, he'll bring the disruption." Everyone else at the table laughed and nodded in agreement. I saw Claire's fingers tighten around her wine glass, but the smile on her face never wavered. "Don't worry, Mr. Peterson. I'll give Mr. Hayes my full support," she said, her voice perfectly level. The dinner didn't end until after 9. On the ride back, Claire was quiet. Mark and I were in the back seat. My boss had had a bit too much to drink and was being overly talkative. "Ethan, you did great tonight," he said, clapping me on the shoulder. "Peterson told me privately that he sees a lot of potential in you. As long as this renewal goes through, there's a promotion and a raise waiting for you back in San Francisco." "Thanks, Mark." "And Claire," Mark said, leaning forward to address her in the front passenger seat. "We really appreciate all your hard work on this project. We're counting on your support for the renewal." "It's my job," Claire replied curtly. When we got back to the hotel, Mark went off to his own floor. Claire and I rode the elevator up to ours. The moment we walked into the suite, she went straight to the bathroom. "I'm going to take a shower," she said, her voice heavy with fatigue. "Okay." I sat on the living room sofa, flipping through TV channels. I could hear the sound of the shower running, and I suddenly felt a little awkward, remembering the events of the previous night. Half an hour later, Claire came out wearing pajamas, her hair still damp. She sat down in the armchair across from me, toweling her hair dry. "Ethan." "Yeah." "Do you think bringing in a new executive from the outside is good or bad for a team?" she asked, her eyes fixed on the muted TV screen. I chose my words carefully. "It depends. If they bring a fresh perspective, it could be a good thing. But if they disrupt the team's existing rhythm, it might not be." "A very diplomatic answer," she said, throwing my words from last night back at me. "What do you think?" She was quiet for a moment. "I've been at Aura for 6 years. I started as a product assistant and worked my way up to director. In those 6 years, the product division has had 3 different VPs. I'm the only director who's lasted through all of them." She stopped drying her hair. "Every new leader brings their own team, their own agenda, and every time, I have to prove my worth all over again, adapt to a new set of rules." I could hear the exhaustion in her voice. "You're already incredibly successful," I said. "Successful?" She gave a short, humorless laugh. "Maybe, but sometimes I wonder what it's all for." She rarely ever talked about anything so personal. I didn't know how to respond, so I just said, "At least the Synapse app is a huge success, and you built it from the ground up." "Yeah, it is," she said, standing up, "which is why I don't want to see it turned into something it's not." She walked to the window and looked out at the city lights. "This new guy, Connor Hayes. I did some research. At his last company, he spearheaded 2 major product launches. Both failed, but he's good at playing politics, and he has connections." Now I understood her worry. "But that's not your problem," she said, turning around, her usual cool composure returning. "You just need to focus on the project. No matter who's in charge. Good data is the only thing that matters." "Understood. Get some sleep. We have an early flight to catch." We said our good nights. This time, she took the bed, and I took the rollaway. In the darkness, I could hear her shifting, turning over. I knew she wasn't sleeping either. I suddenly remembered what Samantha had said during our breakup. That I was too focused on work, that our relationship would always come in second. I'd been angry at the time, but now, I wondered if she was right. All these years, I've been climbing the corporate ladder, getting promotions and raises, but it felt like I'd lost something along the way. My life was work, overtime, client dinners. I saw friends occasionally, but there was always this empty space inside. I glanced toward the bed. Claire's silhouette was a faint outline in the dark. This woman, she seemed to work even harder than I did. On the flight back to San Francisco, we were seated next to each other. The moment we took off, Claire opened her laptop and started firing off emails, her fingers flying across the keyboard. I put on my mask, hoping to catch up on some sleep. My mind was a chaotic mess of thoughts from the night before. Ethan, Claire said suddenly. I took off my mask. I have a new idea for the voice recognition algorithm optimization, she said, turning her screen toward me. Look at this. She walked me through her concept, her explanation fast-paced, but her logic flawless. I listened intently, asking questions here and there. We talked for nearly an hour, only stopping when the flight attendant came by with drinks. That's a brilliant approach. I'll have the tech team evaluate its feasibility as soon as we get back, I said. I need feedback as soon as possible, she said, closing her laptop and finally leaning back. Sorry, once I start talking about work, I can't stop. It's fine. I learn a lot. She leaned her head back against the seat and rubbed the bridge of her nose. Sometimes I think I'm pretty boring. It feels like work is the only thing I have to talk about. My ex-girlfriend used to say the same thing about me. The words were out of my mouth before I could stop them. I was surprised I'd brought it up. Claire turned her head to look at me. So, do opposites attract, or do we repel each other? Maybe. I thought it was supposed to be that people who are alike are drawn to each other, she said, then seemed to realize how that sounded and cleared her throat. I just mean, if two workaholics get together, at least they'd understand each other. Maybe, I said, putting my mask back on. I'm going to get some sleep, Claire. Okay. I woke up as the plane was landing. Outside the window was the city I'd lived in for 8 years, a sprawling landscape of skyscrapers and endless traffic. Every time I came back from a business trip, I felt this strange sense of dislocation, like a story had just ended in another city, but life here had to go on. While we were waiting for our luggage, Mark called and told me to come straight to the office for a debrief. Claire's driver was already waiting for her. See you at the office, then, she said, pulling her suitcase toward the exit. See you at the office. I watched her walk away, and I suddenly remembered the image of her standing by the hotel window last night. In that moment, she had let down all her armor and revealed a rare vulnerability. I shook my head, trying to clear the thoughts. I pulled out my phone to get an Uber. The work group chat was already flooded with dozens of new messages. Life was back to normal. Everything that happened in Seattle, including the unexpected night we shared a room, was supposed to be over. But I had a strange feeling that some things were just getting started. Back at the office, I was swamped. I had to organize the client feedback from Seattle, oversee the development of the new version, and sit through endless meetings and write reports. I was at the office until 10 every night, getting home just in time to collapse into bed. On Wednesday afternoon, we had a product review meeting. Claire came to our office with her team. It was the first time we'd seen each other since the trip. In the meeting, she was as sharp and professional as ever. She pointed out several design flaws and demanded revisions. Our lead engineer got a little defensive and argued back, but eventually he conceded. After the meeting, Claire stayed behind to go over the details with me. Once everyone else had left, she finally relaxed, rubbing her temples. Busy week? I asked. Yeah, the new VP starts at the beginning of the month, and there's a ton of prep work. She opened her notebook. Let's get to it. What's the verdict on the new voice recognition optimization plan? The tech team says it's feasible, but it'll add 2 weeks to the development schedule. That's too long. The beta version has to go live by the 15th of next month. Then we'll have to cut some of the non-essential features. We spent the next half hour negotiating until we finally reached a compromise. By the time we finished, it was almost 7. Want to grab dinner? I asked casually. It's already late. She glanced at her watch and hesitated for a moment. All right, something quick. We went to a Japanese place near the office. We sat at the counter, side by side. She ordered sushi and a small bottle of sake. I got a bowl of ramen. You come here often? She asked. When I work late. The food's good. It is, she said after trying a piece of tuna sushi. Better than the place downstairs from Aura. After the sake arrived, the atmosphere became more relaxed. She started telling me about the gossip surrounding the new VP. His name was Connor Hayes. He was 35, had worked in the U.S. after graduating, and was the son of one of Robert Peterson's old friends. A classic parachute hire, she said, taking a sip of sake. Walks in as a VP, with 3 directors reporting to him. A lot of people in the company are not happy about it. And you? Me? She smiled. It doesn't matter if I'm happy or not. What matters is getting the work done. But, She paused. Connor reached out to me privately, said he really admires the Synapse project and wants to learn more. I can't shake the feeling that he was trying to say something else. Maybe he's trying to get you on his side? Maybe. I'm not good at office politics, but I don't have a choice but to play the game. She swirled the sake in her small cup. Sometimes I just want to go somewhere else, somewhere less complicated. With your resume, you could get a job anywhere. I know. The headhunters never stop calling. She looked at me. What about you? Ever thought about leaving Innovate? I considered it. I've thought about it. But Innovate has been good to me. Mark can be a little short-sighted sometimes, but at least he gives me a lot of autonomy. Mark is a good boss, she agreed. He's just too focused on short-term gains. At that dinner in Seattle, he kept hinting at a price increase after the renewal. You should have seen the look on Mr. Peterson's face. I know. I've already talked to him about it. Aura values our technical expertise, not our low prices. Good that you understand that. After dinner, we walked to the BART station together. A cool, early autumn breeze was blowing. Claire had her blazer draped over her arm, and her white blouse looked soft under the streetlights. Connor's welcome party is next week. Do you want to come? She asked suddenly. It will be good for you to meet him, for future collaboration. Is that appropriate? I'm not an Aura employee. You can come as a partner. It's fine, she said. I'll send you the invitation. Okay, thanks. The train arrived. We were heading in opposite directions. Before she stepped into the car, she turned back and said about Seattle, "Thank you. I mean it. You've already thanked me. Then I'm thanking you again." She stepped into the car and gave me a small wave through the glass. The train pulled away. I stood on the platform, feeling like something inside me had been gently nudged. For the next 2 weeks, I threw myself into the new version's development. The team worked nonstop overtime, and we managed to complete all the features just before the deadline. On Thursday at 10 p.m., the final test passed. I announced that we were done for the night, and the office erupted in cheers. Everyone decided to go out for a celebratory late-night meal. I was planning to go home, but on second thought, I went with them. At the late-night diner, the team was drinking beers and swapping stories about the hellish past few weeks. I sat in a corner, watching the group of young engineers, and suddenly felt old. I was only 30, but my mindset felt like 40. To Ethan, one of the programmers, a kid named Leo, said, raising his beer, "If you hadn't held your ground, the client would have had us revising specs until Kingdom Come." Claire is actually pretty reasonable. As long as you have a good reason for what you're doing, I said, clinking my glass against this. That's because she respects you. The last time I had to talk to her, she grilled me until I was speechless. Leo lowered his voice. "But for real, are you and Director Donovan? You know what?" Nothing, he said with a grin, and walked away. I shook my head and took another sip of beer. My phone vibrated. It was a text from Claire. Just saw the beta version. "It looks great. Congratulations." I replied, "The team worked hard. Connor's welcome party is tomorrow, 7 p.m. I'll send you the address. Don't forget, I'll be there." The next day, I left work early to go home and change. The party was in a hotel ballroom near the Aura Dynamics headquarters. When I arrived, the place was already crowded. Claire was wearing a black cocktail dress and talking with a small group of people. When she saw me, she walked over. "You're punctual. You look beautiful tonight," I blurted out, then immediately felt like I'd overstepped. She looked surprised for a second, then smiled. "Thank you. That's Connor over there. I'll introduce you." Connor Hayes was a sharp-looking man, not very tall, but with a powerful presence. Standing next to Claire, I could feel a subtle tension between them. "Connor, this is Ethan Walker from Innovate Solutions. He's the project manager for Synapse," Claire said. Connor shook my hand, his grip firm. "I've heard a lot about you. Claire is always singing your praises. Says the Synapse project wouldn't be where it is without you. Claire is too generous. It's a team effort." "Modest," Connor said with a smile. "I'll be doing a deep dive into the product line next month, and Synapse is at the top of my list. I hope I can count on your cooperation, Ethan." "Of course." After a few more minutes of small talk, Claire led me away. "What do you think?" she asked. "Aggressive," I said honestly. "You're a good judge of character." She took 2 glasses of champagne from a passing waiter and handed one to me. "He's already been asking for every detail about the Synapse project, budget, staffing, development timelines. Is that a sign he's planning to interfere?" "I'm not sure. but we need to be prepared. She took a sip of champagne. Mr. Peterson isn't here tonight. He said he wasn't feeling well, but I know he's intentionally letting Connor have the spotlight. I scanned the room and confirmed that Robert Peterson was nowhere to be seen. The attendees were mostly Aura's middle and upper management, along with some key partners. Claire, a middle-aged man in glasses, said, walking up to us, "Can I have a word?" She nodded to me and followed the man. I was left alone by the window, watching the crowd. I always felt out of place at these events, where everyone wore a mask and spoke in pleasantries. "Ethan." I turned around and froze. Samantha was standing in front of me, wearing a lavender evening gown, her makeup perfect. "What are you doing here?" We both asked at the same time, then laughed. "I'm here representing Apex. We have a partnership with Aura," she said. "And you?" "Innovate is a partner too. Claire invited me." "Claire?" "Claire Donovan." Samantha raised an eyebrow. "You two seem to be on good terms. It's a professional relationship." She looked at me, her expression unreadable. "I heard some things at the conference in Seattle. You shared a room? Who told you that?" "There are no secrets in this industry," she said with a small smile. "Don't worry, I don't mean anything by it. It's just surprising. It was an accident. The hotel messed up our reservations." "I believe you." Samantha paused. "My fiancé is here with me tonight. He's over there." She pointed to a tall man across the room. "Want to say hi? Maybe later. It's a bit awkward right now." "Fair enough." She glanced at the glass in my hand. "You still only drink champagne, never the hard stuff." "Old habits." We stood in silence for a moment. Then she said, "It's good to see you like this. You seem more centered than when we were together. People grow up." "Yeah," she sighed. "I was too young back then, too demanding. You were always a good guy, Ethan. We just weren't right for each other." I didn't know how to respond. Luckily, Claire returned just then. "Ethan, and this is—" Claire looked at Samantha. "Samantha, Associate Director of Marketing at Apex Wearables. We were college classmates," I said. "This is Claire Donovan, Director of Product at Aura Dynamics." The two women shook hands, sizing each other up. There was a subtle shift in the air. "A pleasure to meet you, Samantha," Claire said with a smile. "Apex's new smartwatch is getting a lot of buzz. Congratulations." "Thank you. We've always looked to Aura's products as the industry standard." After a few minutes of polite business chatter, Samantha's fiancé came over. The four of us made small talk, and then Samantha and her fiancé excused themselves. "Excuse friend," Claire asked after they were gone. "Yeah, she's very poised," Claire commented. "Why did you two break up?" I was surprised by how direct the question was. "We just weren't compatible. She wanted more of my time than I could give. Too busy with work." That was the excuse, but it was also the reason, I said, looking at her. "What about you? Why are you still single?" The question was out before I could stop myself, but Claire didn't seem offended. She actually thought about it for a second. "I haven't met the right person, and I don't have time to invest in a relationship," she said. "Besides, I don't think a relationship is a necessity in life." "Then what is?" "My work, a sense of accomplishment, proving my own value," she answered candidly. "It probably sounds boring, but that's who I am." I nodded. "I get it." Halfway through the party, Connor took the stage to give speech. He thanked everyone for coming, talked about his vision for his new role, and hinted at major, sweeping changes. The applause was enthusiastic, but I saw more than a few strained expressions in the crowd. "The winds are changing," Claire murmured beside me. Sure enough, the next day, news spread that Connor was restructuring the product division. All projects were to be re-evaluated and reprioritized. Claire was pulled into an emergency meeting that lasted 3 hours. That afternoon, she called me. Her voice was strained. "Connor wants to pivot the next version of Synapse to focus on social features and de-emphasize its utility functions," she said. I told him no, but he's insisting. "What's his reasoning?" "He says utility apps have a low ceiling for growth, and social features are the only way to increase user engagement." She paused. "He doesn't understand our users at all. Synapse is an efficiency tool, not a social network." "What are you going to do?" "For now, I'll have my team draw up a proposal based on his idea, but I'm secretly keeping resources allocated to our original plan," she said. "I'm going to talk to Mr. Peterson and see if I can get his support." "What can I do to help?" "Just be prepared for some major changes," she sighed. "Sorry to drag you into this. It's our project too. You're not in this alone." After I hung up, I felt a heavy sense of dread. I'd seen too many good projects get ruined by a change in leadership. Synapse felt like a child that my team and I had raised, and now it was at risk of being sacrificed in a political battle. That evening, Mark called me into his office. "I hear there's been a shakeup at Aura," he asked, getting straight to the point. "The new VP, Connor, wants to change the product's direction. How does this affect our renewal?" "It's too early to say. It depends on how much pushback Claire can mount." Mark frowned. "This Claire, Donovan, is she on our side or not? If she can't handle the pressure, we need to start making contingency plans. She's doing everything she can. Doing isn't enough. We need results," Mark said, tapping his fingers on the desk. "You need to talk to her more, feel out the situation. If we have to, we can make some concessions, but we have to protect our core interests." Understood. I left his office feeling frustrated. I knew Mark was just doing his job. The company had to be profitable, employees had to get paid. But the thought of Claire fighting this battle alone didn't sit right with me. I pulled out my phone and started to text her, then stopped, not knowing what to say. In the end, I just wrote, "Let me know if you need anything." Half an hour later, she replied, "Thanks. 3 p.m. tomorrow or a conference room. Connor wants a full report on the Synapse project. I need you there." "I'll be there." The next afternoon, I arrived at the Aura Dynamics headquarters early. Claire's assistant showed me to a small conference room. Claire was already there, preparing her materials. She was wearing a dark gray suit, her hair pulled back in a low ponytail, her expression grim. "Connor's bringing 2 of his own people," she said in a low voice. "They're probably going to ask some pointed questions. Just answer honestly. You don't need to hold back." "Got it." At 3 o'clock sharp, Connor walked in, flanked by a man and a woman. The meeting started with Claire giving a project overview, followed by my presentation on the technical architecture and development progress. Connor listened intently, interrupting frequently with questions. They were all professional, but they were also all designed to find fault. So, according to the original plan, the next version is primarily focused on optimizing existing features, with no major innovations. Connor asked, "Innovation in utility product is often incremental, not disruptive," Claire countered. "Our user research shows that our current user base values stability and efficiency above all else, not new features." "But what about new users? How do you plan to attract them?" the woman with Connor asked. "Your user growth has slowed, has it not? Every product has a life cycle. We're currently in the maturity phase. The focus should be on retaining our core users, not on blind expansion." "I disagree," Connor said. "In the tech world, if you're not growing, you're dying. Synapse needs a second growth curve, and I believe social features are the key." Claire and I exchanged a look. I spoke up. "Mr. Hayes, we've actually experimented with light social features in the past. The data was not good. User feedback indicated that they use Synapse for work and don't want to socialize on the platform." "That's because you didn't do it right," Connor said dismissively. "I've seen the data. Your daily average user session time is decreasing. If we don't change course, this product will quickly become obsolete." The meeting dragged on for 2 hours, the tension in the room growing thicker by the minute. Claire argued her points logically and passionately, but it was clear Connor had already made up his mind. Finally, he cut her off. "Just build a prototype based on my idea. We'll look at the test data in a month and decide then." After the meeting, Claire stayed behind to pack up her materials. I wanted to say something to comfort her, but I didn't know where to start. "Are you okay?" She looked up, and I was shocked to see that her eyes were red-rimmed. She quickly regained her composure. "I'm fine. I'm just so tired." "I understand." "No, you don't," she said, shaking her head. "You have no idea how much I've put into this project. And now someone is about to tear it all down, and there's nothing I can do." I'd never seen her so emotional. I walked over to her side and, after a moment's hesitation, gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "It's not over yet. There's still a chance." She took a deep breath. "You're right. It's not over." She stood up, her usual cool demeanor returning. "You should go. I need to figure out my next move. Do you want me to stay with you?" "No, I need to be alone." I nodded and left the conference room. As I walked out of the Aura Dynamics building, the sky was already dark. I looked up at the towering office building and imagined Claire, alone in that conference room. My phone vibrated. A text from her. "I'm sorry for that display earlier. And thank you for coming today. I typed back, "I'm here for you, whenever you need me." After I sent it, I stared at the screen for a long time. The words seemed to cross a line from professional to personal, but I didn't regret them. Maybe some things have been changing for a while now, and maybe neither of us was ready to face it. Over the next month, I saw a side of Claire I'd never seen before. She practically lived at the office, working until the early hours of the morning, personally overseeing the design of the social features prototype. At the same time, she secretly kept a small team working on our original plan, optimizing the core functions. I wanted to help, but as an outside vendor, I couldn't get too involved in Aura's internal politics. The best I could do was offer technical support and try to ease her workload wherever I could. On a Thursday night at 10, just as I was about to leave the office, my phone rang. It was Claire. "Can you come to my office? There's a technical issue I need your help with. Now, if it's not a good time, then never mind." "No, it's fine. I'm on my way." The Aura Dynamics building was still lit up. After signing in at the front desk, I went up to the product division's floor. It was nearly deserted, except for the light shining from Claire's office. She was wearing a white button-down, the sleeves rolled up to her elbows, her hair messily pinned up with a pencil. Her desk was a chaotic landscape of documents and empty coffee cups. On her screen was a wall of dense code. "Sorry to call you so late," she said, rubbing her eyes. "I know there's a logic error in this algorithm somewhere, but I just can't find it." I pulled up a chair and started examining the code. Our heads were close together, and I could smell the faint scent of coffee and exhaustion on her. Half an hour later, I found the problem. Right here, the loop condition is set incorrectly. It's causing an infinite loop. "Oh my God, I can't believe I missed something so obvious." She slapped her forehead. "I must be completely burned out. You should get some rest. Just a little more to do." She straightened up. "You could go home. Thanks for your help tonight." I didn't move. "I'll stay until you're done." She glanced at me, but didn't argue. We worked side by side, the only sound in the quiet office the clicking of our keyboards. At 1 in the morning, we finally finished the debugging. "Done," she said, saving the file and letting out a long sigh. "Now I have something to show Connor tomorrow. Let me drive you home. It'll be hard to get an Uber this late." She hesitated. "That's too much trouble." "No trouble at all. It's on my way," I lied. Our apartments were in completely opposite directions. We packed up and went downstairs. The late-night city was quiet. I drove while Claire sat in the passenger seat. She fell asleep almost immediately. At a red light, I glanced over at her. She was sleeping soundly, but there were dark circles under her eyes. When we reached her apartment building, I gently called her name. "Claire, we're here." She woke up, looking disoriented. "Oh, we're here? Thank you." She unbuckled her seatbelt, but didn't get out of the car right away. "Ethan, do you think what I'm doing is worth it? Wasting all this energy on Connor's plan when I know it's not going to work. At least you can say you tried. And you have a backup plan, right?" "The backup plan," she said with a wry smile. "Sometimes I feel like a double agent, trying to play both sides. Why don't you just confront Connor? Tell him his idea is wrong." "Politics doesn't work like that," she said, shaking her head. "Right now, he's Mr. Peterson's golden boy. A direct confrontation would only get me pushed out. I have to prove he's wrong first. Only then will I have a voice." I understood her predicament. "Whatever you need, just let me know. You've already helped so much," she said, looking at me. "You know, you don't have to get involved. This is Aura's internal problem." "Synapse is my project too," I said. "And we're friends, right?" She looked startled for a moment, then smiled. "Yeah, friends. Thank you. My friend." She got out of the car, then turned back. "Drive safe. Good night." I waited until she was safely inside before I drove away. It was almost 3 by the time I got home, but I wasn't tired. Friends. Was that the right word for it? I wasn't so sure. A month later, the prototype with the social features finished its testing phase. As expected, the data was terrible. User retention plummeted. In the review meeting, Connor's face was grim, but he still refused to admit defeat. "It's probably a design issue, not a fundamental problem with the concept," he insisted. "We'll just optimize it and try again." "Connor, the data speaks for itself," Claire said calmly. "Our users don't want social features. They want a better tool." "Then why is user session time decreasing?" "Because a competitor just launched a similar, more lightweight product," Claire said, pulling up another set of data. "But our core user churn rate is still very low, which means the foundation of our product is solid. What we need now is to refine what we have, not pivot. The conference room was silent. Robert Peterson was there, sitting at the head of the table, his expression unreadable. I agree with Claire, Peterson finally said. Synapse is one of our most important products. We can't afford to be reckless. Connor, your ideas are ambitious, but they're not right for this product. Connor's face darkened, but he didn't dare argue with his boss. Understood, Mr. Peterson. But Claire, the issue of decreasing user session time still needs to be addressed, Peterson said, turning to her. What's your plan? I recommend we focus on upgrading the user experience within the existing framework, while also strengthening our user incentive system. I've already prepared a detailed proposal, which I'll send to you after this meeting. Peterson nodded, satisfied. Good. We'll proceed with your plan. Connor, I expect you to give Claire your full support. Yes, sir. After the meeting, Claire caught up with me in the hallway. Thank you. For what? That competitive analysis data. You're the one who put together, weren't you? She said with a smile. I know you sent it to my assistant privately. I felt a little embarrassed. It was nothing. It was more than nothing, she said seriously. Without that data, I couldn't have convinced Mr. Peterson today. We walked side by side, the afternoon sun streaming through the hallway windows. Dinner tonight? My treat. To say thank you, she offered. I'd like that. Dinner was at an Italian restaurant. Claire was in a great mood and ordered a bottle of red wine. We talked about everything but work, travel, movies, music. I discovered that she was actually a great conversationalist, usually just suppressed by the pressures of her job. I was a computer science major in college, but I always loved design, she said. That's why I switched to product management. A lot of people thought I was crazy, said there was more of a future in coding. Being a director of product is a pretty good future too. Yeah, but sometimes I still miss the simplicity of coding. Something is either right or it's wrong. There's no gray area, she said, swirling the wine in her glass. Unlike now, where everything is a gray area. But you won today, didn't you? For now, she sighed. Connor won't give up that easily. He needs a win to prove himself, and the product division is the easiest place for him to get one. So what's your plan? I'll just have to deal with whatever he throws at me, she said, looking at me. But at least now I know I'm not fighting this alone. Her gaze was soft, and I felt my heart skip a beat. After dinner, we went for a walk along the Embarcadero. The evening breeze was cool, and the lights of the Bay Bridge danced on the water. Ethan, Claire said, suddenly stopping. What do you think we are? Are we just colleagues? The question came out of nowhere. I turned to look at her, her profile perfectly illuminated by the streetlights. I'm not sure, I said honestly, but I know that I care about you, and not just because you're my client. She smiled. Me too. We started walking again, our hands occasionally brushing against each other. I summoned my courage and gently took her hand. She didn't pull away. In that moment, the bay breeze felt impossibly gentle. But life is never gentle for long. The next day, as soon as I got to the office, Mark called me in. His face was grim. Several documents were spread across his desk. Take a look at this, he said, pushing a file toward me. I picked it up. It was a series of screenshot emails. Someone had sent an anonymous tip to Aura Dynamics, claiming that Innovate had used unauthorized open source code in the Synapse project, a clear case of copyright infringement. This is a lie, I said immediately. All of our code is properly licensed. We have records for everything. I know, Mark said, tapping his fingers on the desk. The question is who sent it and why. It could be a competitor. I checked. The email was sent from an anonymous account, but the IP address traces back to inside the Aura Dynamics building. He looked at me intently. Someone at Aura is trying to screw us over. My stomach dropped. Does Claire know? I've already spoken with her. She said she's looking into it. Mark paused, but I have a suspicion that she might be involved. That's impossible. Don't jump to conclusions, Mark said, holding up a hand. I know you and Claire are close, but in business, there are no permanent friends. There's a power struggle happening at Aura right now. She might be sacrificing us to save herself. Claire's not that kind of person. I hope you're right, Mark said, but you need to be prepared. If Aura suspends her contract because of this, the company will take a huge hit. You need to figure out how to salvage this. I left his office in a daze. The first thing I did was call Claire, but she didn't pick up. I sent her a text, but she didn't reply. I couldn't focus all morning. Finally, that afternoon, she called me back. I just got out of a meeting. I saw your messages, she said, her voice weary. I know about the anonymous tip. I am investigating. Any leads? The email was sent from a public computer in the product department's common area. A lot of people used it during that time frame, so it's hard to pinpoint who sent it. She paused. But I'm not giving up. Mark thinks you might have. The other end of the line was silent for a few seconds. I understand why he would think that. But Ethan, please believe me. I would never do something like that. I believe you, I said without hesitation. I could hear her let out a breath of relief. Thank you. On another note, I've already spoken with Mr. Peterson and provided him with all of our licensing documentation. He's agreed not to suspend the contract for now, but he's requiring a full code audit. When? Starting next Monday. Aura's tech team will be at your office. Okay, we'll be ready. I felt a little better after the call, but the accusation still felt like a thorn in my side. That night, Kevin snuck into my office while I was working late. I heard there was trouble, he said in a hushed voice. You have good sources. It's all over the office, he said, closing the door behind him. Some people are saying that someone got jealous of how close you and Claire are. What does that mean? It means someone might be trying to hurt Claire by going after you, Kevin theorized. It's an internal power play at Aura, and you're caught in the crossfire. I frowned. Who would do that? Connor, or one of his cronies, Kevin said. You said he and Claire don't get along, right? So, what better way to hurt her than to hurt her key partner? It made sense, but I still couldn't wrap my head around it. Even if he wanted to hurt her, why use such a clumsy tactic? It could be easily disproven. Maybe the goal wasn't to actually suspend the contract, but just to create mistrust, Kevin said. Sometimes corporate warfare is all about mind games. I rubbed my temples. This is exhausting. Yeah, it is. So what are you going to do? Cooperate with the audit. The truth will come out, I said. And then I'm going to find out who sent that email. Let me know if you need help. Thanks. The following week, Aura's tech team set up camp at our office and began their comprehensive audit. My team and I cooperated fully, providing all the necessary documentation and code repositories. On the third day of the audit, Claire showed up. She had a meeting with the audit team, then came to find me. We found him, she said without any preamble. It was one of Connor's guys, a guy named Ryan. He confessed. What was his motive? Connor put him up to it, she said with a cold smile. He was angry about losing the last round and wanted to create problems for me. Hurting you was just a way to get to me. So what now? I've already given the evidence to Mr. Peterson, she said. He was furious. He thinks Connor's tactics are childish and unprofessional. He's going to deal with it. And the contract? It's moving forward. In fact, Mr. Peterson said we can even renegotiate for better terms on the renewal. She looked at me. I'm sorry you got dragged into this mess. It's not your fault. It is, she said, shaking her head. If I had handled the situation better, you wouldn't have had to deal with any of this. She looked genuinely remorseful. I wanted to comfort her, but I didn't know what to say. On Friday, after the audit was complete, Mark hosted a dinner for the Aura team to smooth things over. Claire and Robert Peterson both came. Connor was conspicuously absent. At dinner, Peterson brought up the renewal himself and offered us very favorable terms. Mark was ecstatic and had a few too many drinks. As everyone was leaving, Claire and I were the last ones out. I'm taking a vacation next week, she said suddenly. Going to Wyoming for a week. Alone. Yeah, I need to get away, clear my head. She looked at me. Do you want to come with me? I was stunned. The invitation was completely unexpected. I didn't know how to answer. I'm kidding, she said with a laugh. I know you're busy. I was just thinking out loud, but there was a glimmer of hope in her eyes. I saw it. What if I said I wanted to go? I asked. She stopped walking and looked at me seriously. Then we'll go together. A cool, early winter breeze blew past. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. Okay, let's go together. She smiled, and it was brighter than any smile I'd ever seen on her face. It's a deal, then. I'll book the flights and hotel. Let me do it. No, this one's on me, she said. Consider it. An apology for everything that's happened lately. I told you it wasn't your fault. Then consider it a trip between friends, she said, looking at me. Is that okay? Yeah, that's okay. When I got home, I looked at the flight information Claire had sent me. It still didn't feel real. From the accidental shared room in Seattle to a planned vacation in Wyoming. So much had happened in the last few months. My life had been completely turned upside down by this one person. I didn't know what the future held, but in that moment, all I wanted to do was follow my heart. Go to Wyoming. With her. Maybe under that big, open sky, far away from the city, I would find some answers. On the flight to Jackson Hole, Claire sat by the window, watching the sea of clouds below. She was wearing a cream-colored sweater, her long hair down, looking softer than her usual corporate self. First time in Wyoming? I asked. Second. The first time was 5 years ago for a business trip. I was in and out, didn't get to see anything, she said, turned to look at me. You? Never been. Always wanted to. Then I'll be your tour guide, she smiled. I made a plan. We'll start in Jackson, then maybe drive up through Grand Teton and Yellowstone if we have time. I'm all yours. When we landed, the Wyoming sun was bright and the air was crisp. We got our bags and took a taxi to our hotel, a rustic lodge near the town square that Claire had booked. 2 rooms? The receptionist asked. Yes, 2, Claire said, glancing at me. I nodded, feeling a strange pang of disappointment. I had thought maybe she would book one like that first night. Our rooms were next to each other, both with small balconies overlooking the mountains. After dropping off my bags, I heard a knock on my door. It was Claire. Want to go for a walk? I heard there's a famous bistro nearby. Sure. We strolled through the town, with its wooden sidewalks and charming storefronts. Claire seemed genuinely happy, stopping every so often to look at local crafts. She bought a hand-woven scarf and put it on immediately. How does it look? She asked. It looks great, I said honestly. The deep blue of the scarf made her fair skin glow. After a late lunch, we just wandered with no destination in mind. Free from the pressures of work and office politics, we were both completely relaxed. Sometimes I wish life could always be like this, she said. No KPIs, no power struggles. Just simple. So why not try it? Responsibilities, she said, leaning against the railing of a small bridge. I have a team that depends on me, a project that so many people have poured their hearts into. I can't just walk away. I knew the feeling. In the adult world, there was no room for impulsiveness. That night, we sat on the lodge's terrace, drinking tea and looking at the stars. The Wyoming sky was so clear you could see the Milky Way. Ethan, Claire said softly. Yeah. What do you think we are? That question again. I thought for a moment. A little more than friends, but not quite a couple. We're in that in-between space. The in-between space is dangerous, she said. It's where people get hurt. I know. Then why did you come? Because I wanted to be with you, I said, looking into her eyes, even if it's just in the in-between space. Claire was silent. She picked up her teacup but didn't drink. I've been in 2 serious relationships, she said suddenly. The first was in college. He moved abroad after graduation, so we broke up. The second was 3 years ago. He said I was too busy with work, that I never had time for him, so he left. She paused. After that, I just figured maybe relationships aren't for me. My life is consumed by work. I can't give someone the emotional attention they need. Maybe someone out there wants you just the way you are, I said. Like you. Like me, I admitted. I'm a workaholic too. I get it. If we were together, neither of us would have to change. She looked at me, her expression complicated. Do you really think that? I do. And what happens when we have to choose between work and us? The question was a heavy one. I didn't answer right away. I don't know, I said honestly. But I know that right now, I want to be with you. We can figure out the future when we get there. She smiled. A very logical answer. I'm a logical person. Me too, she said, putting down her teacup. Which is why we need to take our time. Okay, we'll take our time. We sat on the terrace late into the night, talking about everything. Our pasts, our hopes for the future, our frustrations with work, our dreams. I discovered that underneath the tough-as-nails director persona, Claire was a fascinating, funny person. The next day, we drove into Grand Teton National Park. The jagged peaks of the mountains cast long, dramatic shadows in the morning sun. Claire was like a kid, taking pictures of everything. Here, let me get one of you, she said, raising her phone. I'm not a fan of being photographed, but I stood still for her. She snapped the picture, then walked over to show me. See? It's a great shot. In the photo, I was standing in front of the mountains, my expression a little stiff, but my eyes were soft. Your turn, I said, taking the phone from her. She stood in the same spot, her smile effortless. The wind caught her hair and her scarf, and in that moment, she was breathtaking. At lunch, my phone rang. It was Mark. Ethan, you're in Wyoming. Yeah, on vacation for a week. With Claire Donovan? Mark's voice was probing. I glanced at Claire, sitting across from me. Yes. There was a pause on the other end of the line. All right, have fun, but I have some news for you. Connor Hayes has been transferred. What? Peterson moved him to the strategy department. It's a promotion in name only. In reality, he's been sidelined, Mark said. I heard it was because of that whole anonymous tip fiasco. Peterson decided he had a character problem. So who's running the product division now? Claire's the interim head, until they find a permanent replacement. Mark paused. This is good for us. You should use this opportunity to strengthen the relationship. We might be able to get even better terms on the renewal. Mark, I'm on vacation. I know. Just a reminder, he said with a laugh. I won't bother you anymore. Have a good time. After I hung up, Claire asked, trouble at work? Connor's been transferred. You're the interim head of the product division, I said. And Mark wants me to use this trip to strengthen our relationship. Claire frowned. Mark is relentless. He never stops thinking about business. He's just trying to do what's best for the company. I know, she said, taking a sip of water. But I hope that while we're here, we can just be Claire and Ethan, not Director Donovan and Manager Walker. Deal. Here, we're just us. The next few days, we explored more of the park, driving along the scenic routes, stopping for short hikes. Claire would often rest her hands lightly on my waist as we walked. The wind was cool on our faces, carrying the scent of pine and crisp mountain air. The landscape was a stunning panorama of snow-capped peaks and golden aspen trees. I really wish we could stay here forever, Claire murmured. We could always extend the trip. No, we have to get back to work, she sighed. An adult's vacation is always too short. On our last night, we went to a bar in town with live music. A singer was on stage with an acoustic guitar, playing soft folk songs. In the dim light, Claire's face was incredibly soft and beautiful. Ethan, she said quietly. Thank you. For what? For showing up in my life, she said, looking at me. For making me realize that there's more to life than work. The singer started a new song, a slow, romantic ballad. Couples around us started to lean into each other. I gathered my courage and took her hand. This time, she didn't just let me hold it. She gently squeezed back. Let's give this a try, she said. Let's take a step forward from that in-between space. My heart hammered against my ribs. Are you sure? No, she said with a small smile. But I want to try. The worst that can happen is we end up right back where we are now. It won't be worse, I said seriously. I won't let it be worse. That night, we walked back to the lodge holding hands, the moonlight illuminating the path. When we reached our doors, neither of us wanted to say goodnight. Good night, she said. Good night. I watched her go into her room before going into mine. Lying in bed, I replayed the last few days in my mind. It all felt like a dream. My phone vibrated. A text from Claire. One last stop tomorrow. Then back to reality. Okay, and today was a really good day. For me too. I fell asleep holding my phone, a smile on my face. Our last day, we ran into a familiar face while exploring the shops in town. Samantha, with her fiancé. What a coincidence, she said, surprised. You guys are on vacation here, too? Yeah, I said, making the introductions. This is Claire. This is Samantha and her fiancé. The two women nodded politely. Samantha's fiancé was talkative and suggested we all have dinner together. At dinner, I could feel Samantha watching Claire and me. Claire was perfectly composed, chatting easily about the sights in Jackson. When are you guys heading back? Samantha asked. Day after tomorrow, Claire said. Us too. Maybe we'll be on the same flight. Our flight times might be different, Claire said, gently shutting down the idea. After dinner, Samantha pulled me aside. Are you two together? I guess so. Her expression was complicated. That's good. She seems impressive. She is. Then be serious this time, Samantha said. Don't let work come first, like you always used to. I'm trying to change. I hope so, she said, patting my shoulder. I'm happy for you, Ethan. When I got back to the table, Claire asked, what did your ex have to say? She wished us well. That's it. I said, looking at her. Are you jealous? A little, she admitted. She knows a version of you that I don't. That was the old me, I said, taking her hand. The new me just wants you to get to know him. She smiled. Your sweet talking has improved. It's the truth. On our last night, we found a quiet bar. Claire had a little to drink, and her cheeks were flushed. Ethan, I'm a little scared, she said suddenly. Of what? I'm scared that when we go back, everything will go back to the way it was, she said, staring into her glass. I'm scared of the stress, the office politics. I'm scared we won't have time for a relationship. We can face it together. Are you sure? She asked, looking up at me. I can be more difficult than you think. When I'm stressed, I can't sleep, I get emotional, I bring my work stress home with me. I have my own flaws, I said. I'm not great at expressing my feelings. I can be too logical, not romantic enough. So we're two of a kind, she said with a smile. Maybe we really are a good match. Only one way to find out. We talked late into the night, laying all our fears and hopes on the table. It was like we were drafting a contract, spelling out all the terms and conditions. The only difference was this contract had no penalty for breaking it, only a commitment to grow together. On the flight home, Claire fell asleep on my shoulder. I put my arm around her, feeling a sense of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. As soon as we landed, I turned on my phone, and the work notifications came flooding in. The vacation was over. Reality was back. But this time, we weren't facing it alone. The taxi dropped Claire off first. Before she got out, she asked, "See you at the office tomorrow?" "Yeah, see you at the office." "Okay, see you tomorrow." She leaned in and gave me a quick, soft kiss on the cheek, then hurried out of the car. I touched the spot where her lips had been and smiled. The first thing I did when I got home was upload my photos from Wyoming. One of them was a shot of Claire, her back to the camera, looking out at the mountains, the wind catching her hair and scarf. I made it my phone's wallpaper. The next day at the office, everything was the same as always. But I knew that something was different. At noon, Claire texted me, "Dinner tonight?" "Yes." "What are you in the mood for? You pick." "How about that Japanese place where we had our first dinner alone?" "Perfect." After work, I arrived at the restaurant on time. Claire was already there, waiting for me. She was in her work clothes, but her smile was soft and warm. "You look beautiful tonight, Claire," I said as I sat down. "You're looking handsome yourself, Ethan," she replied. We both smiled. Over dinner, she told me about what was happening at work. Even though Connor was gone, his loyalists were still around, causing trouble for her whenever they could. "Do you need my help with anything?" "Not yet," she said. "I can handle it." "What about you? Has Mark been giving you a hard time?" "No. He was actually pretty happy when he heard we were together." Claire raised an eyebrow. "He thinks he can use our relationship to his advantage?" "Probably, but I'll make sure to keep things professional." "Good." She paused. "Actually, Mr. Peterson knows too. He called me in for a talk today and asked about us." "What did he say?" "He said we need to handle our relationship professionally and not let it affect our work," she said with a smile. "He also offered to move you to a different project if we thought there was a conflict of interest." "What did you say?" I told him it wasn't necessary, that we're both professionals. She looked at me. "What do you think? Should I have taken him up on the offer?" "No," I said, taking her hand. "We can handle it. Then it's settled." We stayed at the restaurant for a long time, talking endlessly. When we left, a light rain had started to fall. I opened my umbrella, and Claire naturally linked her arm through mine. The city was quiet in the rain, the streetlights reflecting in the puddles on the sidewalk. "Ethan," Claire said softly, "thank you for being with me through that whole mess. And thank you for showing me that there's a life outside of work. So, from now on, we'll do both? Work and life." "Yeah, both." The space under the umbrella was small, and our bodies were close. I leaned down and kissed her. It was a gentle kiss, but it held all the promises and hopes of our future. The rain was still falling, but in my heart, the sun was shining. From an accidental shared room in Seattle, to a planned vacation in Wyoming, to this moment, under an umbrella in the rain. It had been a long road, but we had finally found our way to each other. The road ahead was still long, but we were going to walk it together. Work, life, love, all of it. The two of us together. End.